Okay, we're back again at the 396th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, September 2nd, 2021. Mr. Kesh, how would you like to proceed in the second part here?
As usual, let's see what knowledge seekers understood and what they want to know more.
Okay. Remind the attendees here in the Zoom chat, they can open their microphones by raising their hands and we can open the mic for you. And just have a look at the questions here. Well, the first question was from Stefania, and you were talking about traveling in space, and the question is, shooting stars are the way we will travel in space? Shooting stars are meteorites, so I don't think we'll
In a
travel
way,
very
if
far.
you look at it, sorry about that, if you look at it, if you become that, what we call particle, somewhere in the universe, we will come across higher order energy that in the interaction of it will become that shooting star, will manifest itself as a light in that environment of the order of the strength of it in that position and time. And yes, we become a shooting star, but in what strength, in what capacity, in what understanding? And this is what is important to all of us. We are that as a soul, that package of energy which is traveling the span of the universe. And then when we find a dimension which is a point of interaction and manifestation of us, will become that shooting star in that position and time. But would we evaporate as a light and energy in there, or would we have enough knowledge that it becomes point of conversion for us at that energy in the inertial position of the time and the space to manifest ourselves in a visible dimension of that position that becomes our manifestation? We are all that shooting star once we take in the dimension of the soul. It depends in which environment we will manifest ourselves, we'll show ourselves, to what strength and what purpose. So, yes, we're all shooting stars, without a doubt, but depends where and how we want to manifest ourselves. If you've been with me, people near me, I have shown this many times. And even in a very recent past, I can show you shooting a star on the same position from two different dimensions and directions, which is one of the impossibilities. Because it's the energy of my soul which creates that manifestation, not the presence of another entity or particle. Usually, when we see shooting stars, they all come in the same direction, depending on their entry and on their position. But if you have been around me, I can show you shooting stars entering from exactly 90 degrees, 180 degrees from each other. Because it's not the matter state which interacts with the atmosphere of this planet that it creates a shooting star. The shooting star is created out of the energy which I release to manifest itself at the point of the observation. You got to understand how long and what should take place that a piece of a stone enters in an atmospheric condition at a given point when you wish and you're talking to someone and say, do you want to see a shooting star? This is even not understood by our knowledge seekers who've been around me, and many of them have seen this. I create shooting star by will, and they see it. Not only one, 3 or 4 or 5 people see it at the same time. And I create shooting stars coming from 2 different dimensions in the same environment. Because it's the energy packs which I release to create that shooting star at that point and dimension through the soul, not through the dimension of physicality. So we all can become that shooting star depending on where and how we wish to manifest and in a way touch the soul of the observer or the soul of ourselves to understand more of creation. So yes, we are. When we become soul, we have no matter state, but we are in a dimension of physical. And when the 2 plasmas interact, the creation of light from them is the light we see today as a daylight. That is the self. That in its own is a kind of the what we call shooting star. To the eye of the observer from outside, Earth is a shooting star interacting with the fields of the magnetic fields of the sun. We are burning to it. We interact with it. Even though we are made out of it ourselves, is our creator of the condition and dimension we are in ourselves. You look at the shooting star as a light which enters and you see it. But if you stand outside and look, Earth is a shooting star in the atmospheric condition of the solar system. We're still burning. We're still moving forward. We're still getting pulled in. And in that process, our fields, our magnetic fields, in interaction with these magnetic fields, create a daylight. Our daylight is what you see in the dimension of the universe as that shooting star head moving forward. It's just that we never consider these things. We just look at it in a matter state, and that's it when we see the light or something enters our atmosphere. We have entered, even though we are created by the sun itself, into the atmosphere of the sun. So we are a shooting star, and it's the same with our soul. Our soul, in the dimension of the interaction with other field strength, will become that shining, what we call shooting star. Maybe we understand a little bit more. Maybe go outside and see at will. You can create the shooting stars that the other can see. That it brings joy to their soul and their emotion. Then you have entered a new dimension of creation and created. Many knowledge seekers around me have seen many times. I was walking with one, I created one. I said, do you want to see the second one? He said, yes, there is a second one. In walking with a few of knowledge seekers, I said to them, you will see 10 shooting stars tonight. And we counted. It's understanding that through the permission from your soul, you create these lights, that it brings joy to the soul of those who are the observers, enlightens them, and eliminates their knowledge and their life. I've shown this a few times to knowledge seekers are very close. I can create as many shooting stars that many people around can see, not just observe them. I can move from one position to another and say, now you can see at this position. Because the environment, the condition is perfect for creation of such an interaction of the field of the soul. In a way, the light you see is the light of my soul, not another entity entering the atmosphere there. But it brings you joy. And this is the power of the messages of the Creator. And we carry the message of knowledge, not becoming another prophet. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. We have a couple of hands up here. So let's see. We have Francis, Portugal. If you would like to go ahead first, and then we have Ed. I think, oh, I see. He's written in the chat, and he has about a tumor and operation and alternatives to these procedures and so on. Give him the email address for the medical issues. Or do you want to address something like that, Mr. Kesh?
I'm trying to read what's in the chat. We don't answer these things, and it has to go through private channels of the teaching of the Keshe Foundation. We never respond to medical response in these teachings. Any other question?
I'll put the link into the chat there for cultistspaceshipistinstitute.org, which is for illness-related inquiries. Okay, thank you. Ed, would you like to go ahead next?
Good morning, Mr. Kesh. Thank you so much for your teaching this morning. They get ever more mind expanding. I would like to understand, I'm trying to understand a little bit more about compression of the fields. The way I ascertain it is that for fields to interact with one another, they need to be of the same or similar strength. So they need to interact with one another in such a way, and the only way I can think of compressing the fields, using the fields, would be to increase the gravitational field forces. Is this anywhere near being on the right track?
You're as close as you are on the moon. Again, in the dimension of the plasma, you have to understand interaction. When we speak about the plasma, it's a spectrum of fields. When we speak about gravity, it's a spectrum of fields which are radiated inwards from the pull of the entity itself. When we talk about gravity, even at the light, speed of light, is you cannot gravitate unless there is something which pulls you in. I cannot pull you to myself if I don't have your hand or a rope with you or something attached to it that I can pull you to. And this is part of the knowledge which we will teach in the coming time. What is that hand that it pulls a field to itself? What is that mysterious knowledge the man does not have? That you call it gravity. I cannot pull you to me if I do not create a line of connection, if I don't put a hand out, if I don't throw you a rope. How do you create that rope, that link of connection in a plasmatic field? Where does it come from? And how is it that it has a full spectrum and a strength of every entity within its creation? simple reverse gravitational field is on the back of book number 3. I'll put that in there deliberately. That one day we will explain this when the man has matured to understand the totality. If you look at the back page of book number 3, the back of it, you will understand half of the mystery of the gravity. And nobody has understood this. No one up to now has understood why we put this picture here. In a more detailed explanation of it, you go to picture 31 on page 187 of book 3, and you will understand more about the process of creation of gravity. And if you want to understand in principle how the whole structure of the creation works with the creation of gravity, you need to literally go in much deeper understanding and a fulfillment of knowledge, I call it. And see how the entities come to exist and how they finish. Read chapter 14 of the book number 3. How will it end? How you go from one plasma to another, how you lead to the creation of one to the other. And in that process, what is the outcome? What is the strength that leads to creation of the poles, the understanding? And to what extent does light manifest itself? Go on to page 1, which is picture 21 of book 3. And you understand the creation of the light. And even being so enlightened, how you still have that condition of the black hole within, even though we have a center within. In the books, we try to explain many of these things in a very simple way that could be understood, could be expanded upon, that knowledge seekers in the future can understand how gravity is created. Go to book page figure 13, and you should be able to understand the creation of gravity from the pictures. You always look at what is given. Look, while you're giving what you're creating to take as well. In figure 13a, you completely understand. While you look at it, the fields are expanding out, but the lines are backwards. These are the gravitational pulls that exist within the magnetical fields of every strength. The way we chose and we drew the pictures was in the future we could explain more in detail when knowledge seekers become more knowledgeable. You call it the gravity, but how does it pull? And why does it only end up in that position and not the other? And how come you have so many gravitational fields at the same time running at different strengths? We have a gravitational field forces within the structure of the cell of our body At the same time, we have a gravitational field forces from the same cell to the gravitational field of the Earth. That's why it keeps its position in that condition. And then we have gravitational field forces in respect to the sun, and then to the galaxy, even every single cell of our body. Otherwise, it will not be in that position. You will not have that cell in the position of your heart. Is a balancing act between all the fields of the universe, which can affect the position, time, and space. So what is, and how do we connect to all these? How do we get pulled by all these towards it? And this is part of the structure of the light. Do we connect as a photon, but we exist as a particle? And do we produce many different photons of different strength to keep in touch? It's like tentacles of the octopus to see which one we grab, and when we grab and we find contact, we attach to. The knowledge is much deeper than looking at it in a very simple way.
I understand that a little bit, I think, but without getting off the subject, back to the compression of the fields, is it the gravitational field forces that causes the compression, or
No,
it's not?
Is a magnetical in the same strength of the gravitation. When you lock into compress, you have to have the knowledge of when you compress what you have to take out, that the thing doesn't crush or doesn't explode.
Okay.
You understand?
No, but I was trying to understand that. I mean, if it's not the gravitational field forces, it's the magnetical. So it's the interaction.
No. Let's put it the right way. Is a magnetical of the outside, is gravitational of inside.
Okay.
That they have to link up.
Okay. All right. So it's an interaction of the fields. It's not like a pressure that's created.
It's not interaction, it's interconnection. It's totally different. They have to connect up at a given strength, and
that's why they have
to. Yes, find a way that they can create a balance within itself, but knowing the limitation of. Well, it takes time to understand.
I think that's as far as I can go right now.
we create a condition of the field. Look at it this way. When we use the gases on the body of the man, what do? You put the gases and you say there is no interaction. We had this with some paint pens. People say we don't feel anything, because I could immediately relate to it that when it was produced in the production line, they forgot to add the amino acid to it. It's not that the system doesn't work, it's that in the process there is one ingredient missing. Because it's important to create that link, otherwise you are there but you don't interact. This is why, for example, when you use copper 1, we always tell you use the amino acid. Take the amino acid out first, and then wash your gases, and then add the amino acid to it. Because you take the line of connection out. To somebody who takes a paint pen and says it doesn't work, it's very simple. It's not that it doesn't work. In the production, they have forgotten to add the link connection. You understand? When you don't have a link connection, how do you expect to connect? And it's the same. You can create all the fields, but if you don't create a connection to moon, you cannot travel to moon. But moon has a specific characteristics of its own that we can specifically tune into and make a link. Creating or measuring and understanding that link is important. That through that link you can pull or you can push. Depends on which side of the fence you're sitting.
I've always understood the gravity from the standpoint of magnetism. We've been taught about magnetism of iron and stuff. And
let me tell you one thing. Try to understand the gravity from the point of plasmatism, not magnetism. Then life becomes much easier. Life becomes much easier.
Well, the point I was trying to get to was that the gravity of the Earth is just much more comprehensive in that I think you mentioned this earlier in your teaching today, that it interacts with the things that it has created. There's a link there, and everything it links to, it interacts with gravitationally. But I can imagine that there are other things outside of our solar system or our universe that it would not interact with unless there's a deeper level that it interacts with, because it came from the same creation.
It doesn't become deeper. It becomes of a given strength. I explained this once before. You get a giant, and if a little boy finds the right position and right strength, can bring a giant down, where the most strongest man cannot do so. It's just finding that line of the breaking through, that line of distorting the line to be linked to. We get the fields of the moon on a continuous basis interacting with the fields of the planet, which are in a liquid condition. What I put this forward years ago, and that is, have we measured the strength of the pull of the planet Earth, the solid part, in respect to the moon? How much of it does it pull? Or is it only the waters which get affected by the field strength of the moon? When we did a test for a field absorption, we saw the change between 5 and 7 o'clock in the evening and at about 5 and 7 o'clock in the morning. And the rest of the time in between stays more or less constant. Try to weigh yourself 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and 10 o'clock in the morning, and see how much your weight changes. On the same scale. Allow 100 grams per hour for loss of energy to environment. Every one of us on the man part of the human being or women different uses 100 grams of energy, weight, as energy in one form or another per day on average. This is what they tell you, you need 2,000 calories, or really 2,500 calories, which is roughly about 80 to 100 grams a day. If you don't eat anything for one session and you weigh yourself, more or less every hour you reduce your weight between 80 and 100 grams. But in that process, where does the energy go? and how do we interact, or can we use it to interact with the environment? It's these energies which we need to understand, that is given and used for the body to exist. And where in this spectrum is the energy where it can connect to the moon? We've done a lot of these experiments, and it's fascinating to understand how much we have never understood.
Thank you.
We had a related question in the YouTube from 432 Hertz Company Q, who says, hi, if the plasma water is frozen, then it's super duper compressed. Would it become magnetic?
What?
Basically, he's saying if the plasma water is frozen and then it's compressed really to extreme levels, would it become magnetic?
Would it manifest and compress by what? That's the point we have to understand. Compress and manifest by what? Fields or matter compression?
Yes, indeed. We normally think of a hydraulic ram or some kind of matter-based way of compressing, trying to compress water, which is basically not compressible in some ways, but it can still have the pressure.
Yeah.
So I suppose we would ask what purpose he would have in making that water magnetic to start with, and it might have something to do with the process that we might use.
That will bring a change, doesn't it? It's just the way we've been taught. We always think in a matter state. Any other question?
Okay, we have one from the Plasma School Library, Australia, in the YouTube. Would you please explain?
Lisa?
Yes, that's code name for Lisa.
Yep.
Could you please explain from a plasma perspective how a psychopath is created? The lack of emotional connection and empathy seems to be an abnormal state for most humans.
You got to understand, this is a very, very specific definition of psychopath. Is a psychopath towards everyone or just specific people? Does a psychopath in a different environment looks normal? Or is it just in respect to one or two people? So we understand a psychopath is a state of control of emotion towards behavior, given behavior. We've seen this many times. Somebody sits in front of you with 2 or 3 people, turns on one side to one person and behaves psychopathically, and the other side so generous and kind. And the kind one never sees it. that how psychopathy is in respect to another. So what we call a psychopath is very much emotion control direction. And you got to understand what triggers this towards a given condition and interaction. We've seen many times. I've been in many positions like this when I sit and watch a person that smiles and laughs with others, turns on and becomes as nasty and ruthless as could ever be. So psychopathic condition is a state of mind control of the emotion in respect to the receiver. It's very much like a serial killer. They kill a specific position and condition because that is what triggers it. Or we've seen it in case of child abuse. Each of these people are triggered by certain age and bracket of structure. These are mainly state of mind and emotion condition. To me, one person is not a psychopath all the time to everyone. To the others could be angel, and to you is a devil. Or could be somebody who's an angel to you is devil and psychopath to the others. So it's a state of mind control and interaction. By the way, while we have this from the plasma people from Austria, the Australian group stores and products will be soon in the next couple of weeks linked to the Keshe Foundation main storeroom and the book in Amazon. So a lot of us who were not aware of it will be able to order products from Australian Keshe Foundation or directly through the main channel of the Keshe Foundation. But still the website in Australia stays open for the Australians who want to buy the products locally in Australia. So as we said, we add more and more products through the Keshe Foundation, other channels and knowledge seekers. This is some of them which now we'll see. And very shortly we'll have Mexico. We're posting new products from the Mexican side, the way we do from China. So next week or two, be ready to see new products, few new products, which come from Australia. They will be supplied by the Keshe Foundation Australia in the stores. And the 3 books, which has been done by them, will be up for sale on the Keshe Foundation website and on the Amazon side of the Keshe Foundation. Then the other.
And we had a, kind of a, I guess you would say, a request from Salamia in the Q&A here, who asked, could you come and explain to the Bragadiru team from Romania this next Sunday at 1800 CET? And she says, I will explain myself to them, but you have the knowledge. They want to communicate and transport with the help of plasma. This is their project. Can you help them? Then she does say that it could be on, what is it here? She says it could be Sunday or Friday evening, up to Mr. Keshe to choose the day and hour. Hate to put you on the spot, Mr. Keshe, but that was the question.
I don't know where I'll be at that time and the place. We try to, we support a very big group in teaching or whatever we can. They attended the conference in Bucharest last months ago. And they have to endeavor to see what there are a bunch of very enthusiastic, very hardworking Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers, and they come up with some brilliant ideas. Try to see if we can attend.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we've got Andrew who asks, Rick, can you ask, will we travel in the form of a smoke ring? That's what I always think when I blow one. It's a very interesting shape as it travels. And I'm reminded that in the book of the light that you published, there's pictures that show, as you mentioned earlier, the way light travels in a cylinder, and that it basically moves like a cylinder, but sort of like a smoke ring, with the inner part moving forward and sort of folding back on itself in a way. Is that kind of a way to understand that?
If that makes you knowledgeable, why not?
It's like an elongated toroid, you could say, elongated sort of donut in a way.
You always need the back pressure, gravitational fields, and the magnetical front pressure to be able to create the condition of motion. In a plasmatic condition, in an aircraft today, the front nose is always a front nose and nothing changes. But in dynamic plasma, you have the front continuously in interaction with the fields of its environment, losing the strength and getting pulled back to the back end, and then gaining strength in the process and moving forward, again becoming the front.
Yeah, that's the way the smoke ring moves too.
Yeah, but it is very much on how and what condition of the helix effect, the fields of the internal fields of the plasma, of the light, creates itself, because it's dynamic. And this is one of the dilemmas of the transportation and transmutation, that we hold position and we don't get the cell of the toe coming to the head and going back down again. So these are part of the work and the processes of the interaction of the fields in the plasma condition.
Yeah, it's hard to comprehend how one would keep it together in the middle of a toroid, basically, where there's so much change change in direction and accelerations going on and so on looking at it as a matter level sort of thing.
This is why we speak about the envelope. We create a dynamic envelope where the inside doesn't matter what happens inside, as it stays constant. We have this envelope as the skin of the man in the atmospheric condition. Whatever happens inside, liver works, kidney works, heart works, but the skin keeps that shell, that inside is separate than the outside. It creates a different vacuum condition to be able to hold on to. And when this, in some cases, a vacuum condition cannot be held, we've seen people just explode. Literally, cellular explosion happens more or less on the point of death to many of us in the coffin. We go through that. It's not just gases, it's a cellular explosion which convert the plasmas convert into, and we see, we open a coffin, there is nothing left but the skin and bone, but no animal has been there. Our cells' energy converts and explodes into energy patterns of the fields of the plasma, and they leak through the body of the coffin. We understand the process in a different way. We look at the process in a different way. This is why in the path of belief of Zoroaster, they leave the body in the exposure open, that it releases its fields, even in the physical dimension, to the other structures. Where we in others, we put them in boxes and we wrap them or whatever, and we hope to hold, but all the energies are released in that dimension of the plasma. Something which hasn't been done by the world of science is that if in the future, now we open knowledge and one day somebody might decide to do research on it, if we take a composition of a grave of all the materials before we place a body in it, and then over time analyze the structure of the materials around the grave. Doesn't matter 10 meters underground or 2 meters underground, and see how the material composition changes by receiving the fields. And then we can even understand the emotion of the man from the composition. Was it happy to be released of the physical dimension? Or do you still want to stay in the physical dimension? We leave an impression within our environment, and within that environment, there are living entities which can carry the information. And then mankind will become more knowledgeable about the cycle of life. In a way, what happens when you're a shooting star and your energy dissipates into the atmosphere? Where does it go? Or does it become part of the energy of this planet? And if it matches that light, that field from the shooting star with the inertia at a given point in time, would the matter condition of that energy appear? And we see the what we call the fall down of the new materials on Earth, or within the structure of the Earth. It happens all the time. A shooting star leads to the creation of dust in respect to the environment and becomes matter by inertia. They've done these tests in the US and I think in Russia, if I'm not correctly remember, that if you don't wash your the roof of your house for 6 months, 12 months, and then go on it with a jet wash and wash it, but collect the water, and then analyze the dust you collected. There is huge amount of cosmic dust on your roof. And if you put a magnet in it, they've shown many scientists that you collect a lot of metals attached to it. This all comes from the daily interaction of the fields of the universe in interaction with the inertia of the matter state. And why most of them change into matter state of the iron, due to the gravitational fields of the Earth. And at the end, they enter this atmosphere as a shooting star, as a light. They never land. They become fields, and then again with the inertia, we compose back to the matter state. Now we understand the knowledge, and if some of these fields is as a strength that maybe 10 kilometers down in the Earth converts to gold, that energy, you'll find gold in that position.
Mr. Kesh, we have another question from Salamia here, which many people have this question and it seems to keep coming up, and perhaps you'll have another answer. It's about light being both a wave and a particle. It's it's duality. And she mentions a photon is a carrier of light as a boson. And she's asking for you, is a photon similar with the wave aspect of light? But I think you've explained that you already talked about the photon and its nature and the nature of the light and how it changes according to its environment and so on.
Yes, but you got to realize sometimes photons, what you call wave or energies, in a given condition, due to gravitational point, they become particles themselves.
Mhm.
We know that this is part of the structure of manifestation of entities in a given strength field. We have brought a fish tank in the Linz Exhibition Center. And in the coming time, we will show you the manifestation of the fish within this tank. It's deliberately brought here, but accidentally planned. And you will see with one drop, we'll create a fish. With one drop in that tank, we'll create a man. This is how we convert the energies from photon to matter state, Ganser state, or plasma. This is what you do within the womb of the mother. You change the drop to light. There's no difference. Just because you can see now it's transparent and attack.
Mr. Kesh, we have a question from Jan in the YouTube. It's a question that's come up quite a few times, but it's always good to get your fresh answer on it. The question is, where exactly does the magnetic field turn to gravitational field, which is the same line of field?
As we said before, it's a point of observation, point of detection.
I thought you were going to say that. Thank you.
Knew that's what it is. That's in reality what it is. It never changes. Are you going to, or are you coming from? And are you coming to me, or are you going away from me? Which one is gravitational attracting you towards me? And then as you pass me, you become magnetic. It's the same car, same passengers. And can I use that field of coming to me to go back to where you were before, or get attracted to the point and the position and dimension? This is why I keep on emphasizing to start working with the fields, not the plasmas and gases. You'll understand more.
Mr. Kesh, it's Dean here in the background in Linz. Can I ask a question, please? Would that be okay?
Yes, why not?
So, Mr. Kesh, I've been having some interactions with the fields. I've placed some GANS waters and amino acids that were in a bucket. And I've had some interactions that seem to be with plants and animals, and interactions when I go into nature and other environments. that seem to, I seem to be experiencing like the soul of the light. I showed a picture with Rick in the reactor group yesterday. And there seem to be getting many interactions that are corresponding with the teachings and everything you've been speaking about in these moments. So do the Gans waters and the fields interact with us in each and every moment? That we, once we interact with them ourselves and create these entities, these fields, the interaction is always there. Is the connection, is that link always there? Is it a permanent link, or does it come and go? And can we connect with it whenever we feel or need to? I suppose that would be my question.
It's always there, and always will be there. And we cannot do much with it, and we cannot do much without it. But if they find given the strength, they link up to us. And it becomes part of the interaction. But when we signature destiny, it will happen that way.
So, Mr. Kessler, so in Lynch, you've spoken about the units and things. If someone goes in the unit or is part of the unit, is it a thought process for them, or does the unit take the position to initiate the plasma exchange, the interaction, or is it a thought process from the entity, the individual that is within the system?
What do you mean?
So the systems that you're putting in place, will they be the link? Will they be the stronger force, the stronger field that will dictate where the entity goes, or will the entity that's inside the soul that's present, will that have a direct influence on its destination?
Could be. It all depends how and what the strength is and what the interaction shall be.
The interaction with many different planetary systems. So whether it was the moon, you said we can now interact and maybe go there instead of a day trip, it can be an hour trip. And through the knowledge that myself and many knowledge seekers have gathered, we understand that this is an instantaneous transformation at any point. So can you travel to not just the moon, but to Mars and other planetary systems in an instant and bring your body back into whether it would accept that condition in that environment? Is that a possibility that you can, if you had the envelope from one point to another point, you can exist still?
Possibly, yes. But again, it depends on the intention and what is to be achieved.
Many people, people from Earth seem to love their physicality, and still, as you know, as you speak about traveling by spaceship or by rockets and whatever. And we all know that many people are still locked into this physicality. So for them, they would still want to materialize or feel strength at the other point in a physical body. So would there be a need for a plasma dome around this person or entity so that they could experience the condition of that environment they choose to go to?
Can you explain what you mean?
So if somebody was to be on from the planet Earth, and we love this environment, and we are present on the Earth and enjoy the beauties of this environment, and we are Earth beings. We have this physicality that we've enjoyed and we've become accustomed to. This as you explain it, as this suit that we wear. But we enjoy this suit. So if we go to another position, let's take planet Zeus or Mars or somewhere, and you decide that you would like to retain this suit, would there be a position that you could have? I know you speak about spaceships and you'd be confined within that spaceship, but would there be a point where you could have a dome around the physicality so that you could interact with the environment still in a human form? Or would this be that it would be ridiculous to try to do this, and you'd be much better just traveling by your soul as you do?
We expect too much to do when we don't have the knowledge of. When we have the knowledge of, many of these questions won't exist.
It seems to be, Mr. Kesh, that many people, many of the teachers within the foundation are gathering a lot of knowledge, and they are finding through your teachings ways to actually be in certain positions. And the Linked exhibition and many other locations around the planet will soon be able to showcase this information, this technology. And many of the general public and governments and everything will have a great interest in this once it is shown or experienced. So it's fundamentally very big questions that are being asked about, is it a physicality position that people can experience on other planets, or is it going to be that many will, to experience this, they would have to travel by their soul?
Mankind will learn there are two ways of enjoying the time and the space: by understanding and connecting to the fields of the knowledge, or trying to understand and do by presence of the soul. Both will bring the same result, but you have to find the dimension and the direction where you want to be in present, and what you want to learn and gather from it. So we do not need to travel to gain the emotion or the information. We just need to tap into the dimension of the soul which carries that information.
Mr. Kesh, we do this on a regular basis as a soul when we sleep each evening, or whenever someone takes the position of not for everybody, it's not always lying down, taking a horizontal position and going to sleep. Is this position required for a soul to travel, or can it do it in a vertical position as well?
The soul doesn't have a position. It rotates in this dimension, or interacts in this dimension. Just because you move doesn't mean the soul has changed its position and dimension. Its interaction is always in the same line. The earth doesn't change if it's 5, or what do you call it, when it changes, reverses its polarity. Still the same. It's just how you create the links between all.
So our vertical friends that have this greater intelligence than us, why is it that they because of the gravity on this planet, they decided to grow vertically and extend their soul down. And this is the point where they are connecting with the soul of the earth and making that connection.
Actually, they don't connect with the soul of the earth as such. The main connection comes with the inertia of the position and time. Because that's why each one takes or become good in certain minerals and are grown in certain conditions or certain seasons. Is partially the interaction with the gravitational, but in essential, the soul is balanced between the both and the inertia of the environment. That's why some plants work in a alkaline and calcium-based environment and some in other conditions. This is something which the world of agriculture has never understood. And that's, if we understand it, we can create that condition of the field strength, and we can grow anything anywhere as long as we satisfy the soul of the plant.
So the direction of the plant and the field strength it has, we've been showing recently, and I've done it myself, where we would put some plasma into some frozen water, and those rays, that plasmatic field shows within the condition of the ice as rays, as points coming out of, into the structure of the ice. And would this be the same as a plant or animals that are growing to a position within a sphere of the planet, but the actual rays go out in all directions? It just happens to be from your point of observation, your point of view, where you are present?
It's very much the way some of our Chinese looking, some of us are black looking, some of us brown looking, some of us are white looking. Some plants are short, some are herbs, some are trees. We interact with the inertia of the condition and the emotion at the same time. And this is part of what we always, in the evolution of life, never considered. Our lives or manifestation of life in physical dimension is partially is gravitational field environment, partially is inertia, partially is emotion of the fields within the structure, which comes from the interaction of the physical dimension of the creation of inertia and the, what we call magrav of the planet. A good example of it is how with change of season, trees die or drop their shed their leaves, and some plants decide not to awaken the next year once they go through the summer, the winter season. Why the same we see trees that they were full of life the year before, and when they go to sleep for the winter, they never wake up. We very seldom, unless the whole season all the time, or we don't water a plant, we cut its line of interaction with its environment, we see plants die during the loading season, whereas the summertime or the winter time which they live. And a life, a physical dimension life, even the human, is a combination of the interaction of the fields of Earth, interaction of the fields of the environment, interaction of the inertia of the matter state within the Earth, and interaction of the fields of the emotion. We create a man. Man can be any color, Then we give it a height and the color in respect to the environment interaction. And then we give it the fields of emotion, aggressive look, aggressive behavior, calm behavior, loving behavior. Then that comes from the interaction of the fields of, and then it becomes the pattern of that, what we call environment. We say, all the ones from there are behaving like this, or are like this, or they look like this. We have not separated in our knowledge that the emotion has a direct effect on the manifestation. We always look at, even in the world of science, as part of the totality. But now that we are aware of the knowledge, we have to look at the totality as itself. As we talked about the Indians and the Pakistanis, how the path of belief have changed to the same blood in two totally different structure of the understanding and being. What creates that condition is the emotion, which itself is the interaction of the fields of the physicality with the fields of the soul of the man, and what the soul of the cells of the brain in that position would like to manifest or manifest out of their balance fields. Is not anymore a simple, I take a seed, I create the plant. I can create the emotion for the plant will grow anywhere, irrespective of the place and time and position. We always create a greenhouse of environment. We haven't created a greenhouse of the emotion for the plants and see how they grow. We can create any environment that still grow. This is a lack of knowledge of understanding the totality. So how we enter in another dimension and how we feel in that dimension will dictate our feature, our manifestation, and our interaction.
So, Mr. Kester, thank you for that. So the image on the screen right now, we see these beautiful plant pots, we say in England, we say in the UK, that are creating a field that are feeding the emotion of the plant. So that there may be a condition within this structure that would feed the physicality, but it's the emotion of that plant that's being fed the most. It is giving it its beauty to bloom, for so it can show its beauty to us. Is this the position that these products will achieve for this plant, for this entity?
It'll be very interesting to see if we put these plants in these pots this year. We buy it from outside and let them to grow here. And the way the gardeners will reproduce the next generation, see how the next generation will show itself. Would the flowers will be the same? Would be the leaves will be the same? Would they change the color and size? And why do plants create different colors of themselves? Different colored flowers. I might not like a red, but I make a blue one or a green one or an orange one that somebody else might like it. It gives me a better chance to appreciate and enjoy my existence. This is what we have asked from the agricultural side. We want to see what is the outcome of next cycle of the growing the seed, the emotion of the people who use it, in a way creating a new cycle of life without flaw, without short.
Mr. Kess, if the plant has a balanced field, has the emotion balanced, and then from that position, the next seed or the next child receives that emotional balance as well, then this field strength gathers and grows and brings about a new position that is, for want of a better word, like an evolving position that then comes to a point where it would gain a certain field strength that would bring about transformation, would bring about elevation. What is the?
Doesn't mean to be elevation. It could be evolution in a new way to live. It's a way to understand that this new environment is created, so we adapt ourselves to it. And how does it change? This will come very soon when most of the humanity will go through the phase of not eating anymore. What will happen to the number of the animals which we tame to eat, plants which we tame to consume, and now we are not consuming them? How do they control themselves? Or does one goes to the maximum to produce as much as possible and override everything else? Or would the plants and the creatures find a point of balance? I'm not eating you, but don't block my path and grow everywhere. Would they understand each other's motion? Would we see aggressive growth of one plant to take over everything, or they will come to see the need of the others? There's a lot to be learned from the interaction of the souls. A lot to be learned.
And Mr. Kesh, will so once we reach a certain position, will the interaction between if an entity, let's say a human, and a plant reach a balanced condition where the energy transfer between them both is of giving, what position will that be?
We already do that, but we're not aware of it. When we take her and we enjoy it, when we consume it, we connect a line of emotion to it, to its amino acid, to its existence. Scientists have shown emotional connection between people and plants very clearly, and how the plants respond. These are well documented. This is not, but now we have to look at the dimension of the reason that emotional interaction is created, and what the strength and what's the cause of interaction, and how we can all interact, not just humans. What about the cow, which can walk the fields, but it doesn't need to eat anymore, and the grass can grow so much that it cannot go anywhere? Can he transfer his emotion to the grass that stay at the height that I can go through too? That we don't need to cut to destroy. Where we're going through the structure of the fields by transportation and transmutation, why does Earth, waters respond to moon so radically every day, every cycle? Does the moon carry a field strength in the strength of the amino acid of the life within the planet that they are connected to? There must be a line of connection. It's not just gravity. Gravity has to have a line of connection. What does it connect to that it creates such a movement, such absorption? But then to a certain strength, the gravitational earth pulls the matter back down. When the earth is on the wrong side, the field of the sun cannot interfere so much. Then the field of the moon, which are slightly different but of the same, it creates such a pull and push.
Is that why, Mr. Kess, many people experience big shifts of in their physicality with the moon cycles? Is that connected to the man?
Should be somewhere, some part of it, yes. We have this in many ways, but we never connect. We never understand. We have it in the cycle of the month, cycle of the moon. Which part, where is the highest, where is the lowest? We have the same. You change the moon to a woman or a man, we go through the same cycle every month. Why is it cycled in such a way that it repeats itself? What decides the end of the cycle? What decides the beginning of the cycle?
Would other entities, creatures, souls experience this as the cycle of
According to the
motions?
cycle of life, we all experience it. Doesn't matter where we are. Man and the earth reacts to the moon. The others in other dimension react to their dimension and not necessarily to the month or to the moon.
That field strength exists across. It's not just the planet here. So other environments, experience the same fields, the same pull and push, no matter where you are. So there's a direct connection there with everything, where the field strength of that push-pull is within the structure of many different conditions across the universe.
We are all field interconnected. And this is what we have not understood. Every entity in the universe is field connected. Depends on what strength you want to connect.
And you said there, Mr. Kess, depends on what field strength you want to connect with.
Yep.
So that's the free will.
Sometimes you have a choice, sometimes you don't have a choice. You never have a choice who you fall in love with. Because you don't know the strength of the love at that point and position. And 10 years later, oh shoot, how did I fall in love with this? Because the field strength has changed.
Thank you for those interactions, Mr. Kess. Wonderful to speak with you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Kess, Jalal had a short video he wanted to show at this point because it's kind of relevant to the plants and the vertical people. Perhaps we can play that. It seems okay. Would that be all right?
If you have seen it, why not? I think we know this gentleman. We hope.
Yeah, normally I run videos by you first, but you know how insistent Jalal can be.
He always asks his 2 questions and he gets his way with the 3rd one. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Jalal, you can speak there perhaps. Do you want me to play the audio or do you want to annotate the audio as you go along?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Mr. Cash. This is a small video. I video with my plants here, and let's see this soul what decided wanted to be. Do you have the audio with it? Or
Okay, I can play that. Sure, I can play the audio. Just a second. Get that set up here. Just a minute.
you know, this one is here for about 5 weeks. I find this branch and I put it in this plasma. And you know what? Still the flowers nearly attached to it, but look here. It's a new branch is coming out. So tell me please. Who can do that? What is the source of this energy? Let's see next time what will happen, or the time to come. So if we see this plant, if it decided to continue with this position, what kind of flower it will come out now? It's a new one, and it's still living. I still see it in my place now, and it is more than now 40 days, and it's continuous. This shoot is growing without leaves, without roots, even without sun, and it is embedded in the water. And we know the orchidea, they do not like much watering, and it is there for more than 40 days. So if it decided to continue, what kind of flower we will get? And if we take the seed from it, what kind of flowers will we giving to the environment? What kind of emotions? And you know what, Mr. Cash? I didn't put any condition to it. I just take it from there. I was considered that it live only. So I put it there. And as you said so many times, when you make a nano coating, just put it, the nano coat, and go vacation. And I done the same thing. I put it there, and after 2 days, I went vacation for a month. And when I came back, I noticed it's still living, and the flowers is still little in a way fresh, and it have a new shoot going out. So did I decided that it live, or itself decided to be convert with this life? So today there's no question. So you see, I showed something.
Yeah, but the biggest question is, how can you do 40 days holidays nowadays?
Oh, you don't know.
That's what I was wondering too.
Would you like any assistant? We can work with you. At least we get 40 days holidays.
Yes, of course. You are welcome, Mr. Cash. But what kind of holiday, my dear? I have holiday from work at the company, but I didn't have holiday working with the knowledge seekers. We are working all the time.
Oh, that's good. At least we became a new headache for you. But you see, did you use any amino acid in the water? What kind of gases you put in?
This is cup of the man.
Yes.
And normally when I wash the cup of the man, I use also the amino acid with it.
So you put some amino acid in it.
Yes.
So you have created that condition to the plant. The key to a lot of work when it comes to human interaction or animal interaction or plant interaction is to create that line of use. It's amino acid on top of the water. It's not just amino acid. It's a connection line between above and below. And when we don't have that connection line, how do you want to make the connection? And interesting enough, on this planet, due to combination of the material which you use without you knowing as an alloy of even copper, different strength copper, or different atomic structure copper, you created a composition of all the elements, and then one of those or some of those are at the strength of the plant, because it's the same amino acid. Now we know the connection between us and the universe. We know the connection between us and the plant life. So we know somewhere in the spectrum of these amino acids you see on top of the water, it's not just one type of amino acid, it's a composite. And so some of it has connected to the plant, and the plant connects to it and takes energy. But again, has a cycle of life. Would it stay for whole winter flowering? Or is it still as part of the genetic information? Will have a time span of so much, and then you keep it, and then next year it become another flower. And why do the plants die? Why do they have a 1-year cycle? So you went on holiday, but the amino acid which you put in there has made the link. This is why in agriculture, a lot of people who do the test, they put a lot of ganses at the beginning and everything else. But actually, when it comes to the fruit part, when it comes to the end part, is the most important part to put amino acid and feed the plant. At the beginning, you attract a lot of it, but if you want a mature end, flower, wheat, whatever, the last part where the most amino acids are absorbed, which matures the plant. So you introduce an amino acid. Right there.
Mr. Cash, in this respect, why we linked much more in grief than happiness to our position?
What?
Why we linked in from our emotion part? Why we linked more in a grief than happiness?
Because you're born in Iraq and the Middle East. That's our nature. It shows we are very mature.
So,
live
okay.
in England and other parts is just all fun whole day. Who wants to worry? You become a Jewish guy and you cannot moan. You don't spend any money on the dead, so you always spend happy. It's the culture which we are brought up.
Okay, this bring me a memory of what you taught us about this lady, which was in a position, and she left the body, and she manifested herself in another part. She used this connecting from her position to another position. How? Using the emotion part?
It's the emotion we use. We don't want to be in that environment. You can have the physicality, I take the soul somewhere else, and I manifest myself somewhere.
Is it calling up in in a way the gravity of herself?
It's not the gravity, it's positioning in respect to somewhere else. She could have gone to the moon or Mars. There's nobody else. She doesn't know the environment, so she prepares to go somewhere maybe her soul always wanted to go, where she heard is where there is a freedom and no pain. It depends what we associate with. This is part of our total problem. Association and how we associate. We choose, or we go through a pain structure. And if that pain doesn't exist, or we go through the system that we don't feel it, then we can be anywhere and do anything. And I've explained this before. When some years ago, I fell off a horse, I got up and I started walking when all the bones were broken. I felt no pain. I felt no pain, literally, till they brought me out of coma days later, and it was like a pneumonia infection in my lung. Otherwise, with my ribs broken, everything bleeding inside, I never felt the pain. Because I wasn't associating with pain. I know, I've said it many times, I got up and I knew the body is there, but it had to do something. It's what we call a pain barrier, what we call a pain threshold. Do we like to be in pain? Do we cut off a point and we say, this is it, as much as I can take? I start a new life and life becomes happy and you never remember the pain. We choose. We are the choosers. And we decide in what point we don't want to feel certain things. It's not becoming numb to it, is not accepting it to be. Next time you go on a 40 days holidays, please take us with you. We don't mind teaching while we are on holiday. I think Rick might agree with me more.
Okay, yes. You are welcome. Next year, I will give you a call. Thank you, Mr. Cash.
Thank you very much. Rick, I think you and I, we are in the wrong business.
We have a note in the chat from Mirnez, and she's asking to show the pictures of her orchids, which came to life. So I said I would ask you, do you want to see Mirnez pictures of orchids that came to life?
Yeah, orchids come to life all the time. We have a lot of them. If you remember when we opened the exhibition center in Linz, every table had a white orchid. We had to take these out, and some of them totally, literally died. And we have a beautiful guy in the office. He's what we call the mother for the plants. He brought a lot of them back to life, and I've seen them, some of them flowering. These are very resilient flowers. And we might see some of them back in the new exhibition. Go ahead, and then we can go. Is there any other question, or shall we call it a day?
There's a couple more questions. Now, Mirnez, are you able to share? Do you mean you're going to share your pictures, like show your pictures, actually show them with a screen share? Or are you sending them in some way, me or somewhere else? Just gonna allow you to talk there. Okay, go ahead, Mirnez. You can speak now, I think.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mr. Cash. Thank you very much. It was just amazing. Very beautiful. In fact, I had an orchid. I can send a picture. It died, but I like to keep the green ones for some time. I can, and then after some time, I had a tube of CO2 or CO2 salt. I put inside it, and then I saw that there is the shoot coming from the middle and going in 90 degrees towards the side. And then they started to give flowers. Now I have an orchid which has 5 big flowers in the middle part, going to the left, right? And they are there. With this tube of, I think it was CO2.
So can you share the picture? Can you
Okay, tell
share
me.
the picture?
I have the picture. I can share it with the Zoom. Is it what I should do?
Well, if you know how to share and it's not going to become a
Okay.
whole trauma for us to do it, yes.
I see the picture of Jalal still.
And do you want to share? That was
Yes,
my question.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank
And try
you.
not to share your desktop, just try to share the picture. That would be good.
Thank you very much. So that's my picture.
Jalal always make the
No.
bombs.
The picture's not there. The picture's not there,
Okay.
Marinus.
No, it's not there exactly.
No.
So I send it with this. I get embarrassed a little bit. This kind of things. I send it now. I send it to the Zoom.
Send it to the Zoom. To the Zoom.
Okay, I send it again. I send it again.
Okay, you're not sharing then. You're sending the picture to Zoom somehow. That's different than sharing.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, everybody.
So,
So I have the picture now. Can I share it?
I don't know, can you? This is what we're trying to do, yes. Do you know how to share?
Okay, there is a share button on the bottom of the picture,
Uh-huh.
and there's this envoy Zoom to send to the Zoom.
No, you're not sending it to the Zoom.
Oh.
Do you know how to share on your Zoom? To share screen?
Okay. Okay, share. This cut a bit. I'm sorry, everybody. Sharing. Now, now, I don't have the bottom of share.
Okay, then we'll have to learn this off screen, sorry. And this is why we send pictures and the background before the workshop instead of trying to do it impromptu, because sometimes we have complications for those who don't know how to share. So you can send the picture to me and maybe we can share it at a later time or something. No, I don't know how to work your device there, so I don't know how to do it. But it's not working now, so we're not going to do it anymore. Okay, sorry.
You're welcome. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, maybe next time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, there's always more questions, Mr. Kesh, but perhaps you'd like to wrap things up for today. So are you still there, Mr. Kesh?
Yes, no problem. Thank you very much, Rick. I hope, as we all said, we learned a little bit more today. And as we progress towards what we call another phase of teaching, understanding more of, we refer back more to the books because many of you can read it and go back to it and understand the totality of the knowledge. But as you've seen over past years, each part of the knowledge uses the same words, the same book, but it brings different enlightenment, different understanding to many of us. And this is what we call universal knowledge is. We take from it according to our intellect and understanding and conditions. Man has chosen to understand and use his intellect up to the point of material condition and instruct himself. Now has a choice to go further and use a new intellect, new understanding, and expand the horizon of his existence in different dimensions, where what we call death does not exist, where eternity exists in dimensions of millions and billions of years in comparison to the man's cycle of life, where in that dimension it could be a second. And this is how we transmute through light from one to another, and we decide where and how to manifest our existence. Thank you very much for today. We hope we meet soon and learn a little bit more about the truth about the life and what we call universal life and more than matter life. Up to now, we had the cars and the carts. Now we have the light and what we call enlightenment. And depends how we want to use which one. If you are in the dimension of physicality or in the dimension of the fields of the energy of the plasma, you might call it the soul or the sun or whatever. Thank you very much, Rick, today. And hopefully we'll see you next week.
Okay, very good, Mr. Kesh. Thank you once again for another Knowledge Seekers workshop here, 396 in this case. Thursday, September 2nd, 2021. And we see we have the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace coming up on Tuesday of next week, as per usual. And that starts at 4 p.m. Central European time. And I'll play a few ads here to end today's meeting. And thank you, everybody, for attending today. Thank you, especially for those that had the questions. And if there's any questions remaining, please carry them over till next workshop. And we'll see if we can take care of it then. Okay. Start off with the Maggrav Energizer. And bye for now.